Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and I'm going to be taking a look at a game from the 2006 European Individual Women's Championship between Anna Muzychuk and Jessica Nill. So opening up here, kind of an interesting opening. After e6, Muzychuk plays c4. And so just trying to take advantage of the fact that black played this early e6. White is trying to steer things into, maybe some kind of Maroczy Bind type position a little later. Or after e5, black is conceding a tempo here, but by closing the center, this tempo is not going to be quite as important. So personally, I like the setup that black chooses in this game. It's kind of a closed Sicilian here. I think the technical name is the Kramnik variation. Maybe this is the name for white playing that early c4 in response to e6. But this is kind of, I like this setup here for black. Black is going to be achieving fluid, or at least, here it has the chance of playing f5 in one move, whereas white's got to move the knight. So after queen d2, I think the best move for black is either knight d4, or directly, I prefer f5. Instead, Jessica Nill plays a6, and I do understand why. I mean, she wants to play rook b8, and or if knight d5, she can play b5 in one move. The problem is, with moves like a6 and rook b8, is it's very slow, and there's not even concrete counterplay associated with b5, whereas playing in the middle and playing, playing moves like knight d4 and f5 instead of a6, that a6 plan can probably wait. So I think it's a little bit smarter to directly initiate play in the center and try to push forward with a kingside attack. Instead, now after rook b8, f4, and white has been playing, exclusively in the center. And so she's going to have a little bit of a leg up there in the ensuing complications. So exchanging, this is okay. It makes sense. Open up this bishop here. And f5, you really have to play that. Because if you don't, white is just going to get a great attack on the king side by getting f5 herself. So f5, okay. I mean, the position is roughly equal. With rook e1, maybe I'd prefer white's position a little bit. White's got a better development. These moves a6 and rook b8 are not really doing anything, and the battle is really going on in the center. So knight d4, okay, it's a good move. Knight f3, the knight was a little loose on the outside of the board. And maybe black was first of all, knight d5 just doesn't work, right? The knight's hanging. So with the knight hanging, maybe black, let's say any kind of move, maybe black can even try to play knight to d5 herself to open this up. Just a thought. It's kind of, the knight's just loose. So knight f3, and here I think the best move was either knight c6, or the exchange makes a lot of sense, and now to play knight c6. Because, yes, it does concede the d5 square, but black gets the d4 square in exchange. So it's pretty much equal. Instead, Nill played queen c7, and I don't really have any idea why. It doesn't really do anything. So now bishop f2. On the other hand, Muzychuk is playing with a concrete plan. She's playing for concrete, combinations here. And with bishop f2, now b5, okay, the rook's opening up on the b file, it's good, but bishop h4, and white is trying to angle to break in the center and attack black's king. So yes, black wins a pawn here, but I mean, come on, I mean, the c4 pawn is not exactly a monster. And with e5, white is forcing open, complications in the center, where she's obviously better placed. The bishops are really active in the center. The white knight's ready to jump in. The rooks are jamming on the e and f files, so it's getting very difficult to defend for white or for black here. So she tried to take, and this just simply fails. Bishop takes e5. Very simple. Bishop takes e7. Any kind of checks, now the rook's protecting the bishop. And if queen takes, just queen d5. Nice check, winning a piece. So e5. So a really cool plan associated with bishop f2 to h4 to e5. Really nice plan. Opening up the center. And you got to open up the center. I mean, it's very instructive. You have to open the center if your opponent is playing moves like a6, rook b8, and b5, and takes z4. I mean, that's like 4 moves there. And this is a critical time in the game, you know, around move 20. I mean, right out of the opening, you got to take advantage of that. You got to blow it open in the center or go for a kingside attack, which is exactly what Muzychuk does. So now bishop b7, just a little exchange here. And now bishop f6. So this was really the point of the whole plan. Bishop here, e5. Now bishop to f6. A little around the world tour, but it makes sense. Now the bishop on f6, real big thorn in black's side. Tries rook d8. You know, now the queen is pinned to the defense of this knight. If the knight moves, white's going to get this monster square on d5. Although in this position, I think that's what black should have done. She's just simply has to unpin the queen from this knight so that there's actual, black has real threats, you know, because here black has nothing. So knight f5 I think is definitely the best move here. But I mean, it's dangerous. You know, it's not it's a dangerous position either way you look at it, you know, leaving this bishop here. But I still think, you know, I don't see a concrete win for white, you know, any kind of exchange sacks here. Seems like black is okay. So I think in this position, this is where, you know, the real big mistakes started coming from black. After bishop f6, you just can't let your pieces get pinned down to that defense. So rook d8, and we're going to see what happens. The knight on e7 gets stuck. And so the knight's stuck. Now you just walked into a pin. The queen's pinned to the knight. The knight's just in the way, you know, and so king h7, now knight e4, and I think black is totally lost. I don't really see any good moves for black here. In the game, she tried rook d8, which makes sense, unpinning the knight, but, you know, I just don't think it's enough. I mean, rook d4, if queen d7, at first I looked at e6, but maybe black is going to get out of this. I think just simply trading queens, taking the pawn, get the pawn back, and whatever black does, just knight e6. And black's going to be winning at least an exchange here. So queen d7 doesn't work. The queen, you know, is pinned to the knight, so any kind of other moves don't work for the queen. So rook d4, why not? So the thing is queen g2, and now white is setting up all kinds of nasty shots on the queen here with discovered checks, trying to win black's queen. Very difficult position to defend. She tried queen a7. This was a weird move. I mean, at least I thought queen c7. Although I guess she was worried about the knight in some variations getting to e6. But queen a7 was strange because now the queen is way out of play. I mean, at least with queen c7, there's some influence on the position in the center. So instead, we see queen a7, and now it seems like a forced variation, pretty much a forced win for white, just about. Keeping the king over here. Could have tried, and this was the only reason I could see on queen a7 is to play king here, to king e8, and now the queen would be protecting this square. So while this it's not pretty, it seems like maybe black's going to be okay. And there's some other ideas here. Maybe knight d6, and maybe this is, you know, probably what scared her away is knight d6, and now not so good for black either. So anyway, in the game, she tried king g7 and e6. Really nice idea. You know, this knight is it can't come here. You know, that's a freebie. And if knight here, you know, rook f7 is going to pick up the queen. So after e6, queen b6, trying to just pull out a cheapo in a really bad position with if rook takes, rook d1, and this was black's idea to at least chase down and probably try to get a perpetual check here. So something of the sort, maybe rook d3, something like that. So black was going for a cheapo, but Muzychuk, too accurate. She just played knight f6, and there's no way to stop the mate on h7. After check, just queen f1. The checks ran out. Jessica Nill with black resigned. So a really cool game by Muzychuk. I mean, very principled game. You know, she threw in a little bit of a weird move order in the opening, but that, you know, gotta give it a shot. And going into the middle game, very principled play. Just playing in the center and playing for the kingside attack in response to black playing a little bit too slowly and without a concrete plan on the queen side. So this is Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and thanks for tuning in.